This video corrects my past interpretations of Germany's dealings with Iraq and Iran. Hello friends, this is Unmasked Truth with Harmanjeet Saini, where I provide unique analysis of world events based on the unmasked truth that after surrender, Germany continued World War II clandestinely and became a killing machine. I also provide true news that you will find nowhere else. In my past analysis of world events, I have stated many times that Germany propped up Saddam Hussein as leader of Iraq to inveigle him into killing as many of his own people as possible to get revenge on the Iraqis for occupying the land that German ancestors, the ancient Assyrians, occupied. I stated that the German strategy is to help a person from a minority tribe to take control of his country. To maintain his rule, that dictator would then have to kill people from other tribes or groups, as they would be plotting to take over the country's rules since they are in a majority. Saddam Hussein was from a minority tribe and he used extreme brutality to maintain his rule. I have realized that I made an error in that assessment. Germans did not prop up Saddam Hussein to use him to destroy the Iraqi people, but to use him to fulfill certain Bible prophecies. Much of modern Iraq is part of the land where ancient Babylon was located. Parts of Iran are also the land ruled by the ancient Babylonian Empire. Germany's goal is world domination. To achieve that goal, Germany knows that it has to defeat the United States, Britain and Israel alliance militarily, enslave, and remove the population from their countries. The Bible also prophesies that in the end time, Germany will succeed in doing so and will achieve world domination for a brief 3.5 year period called the Great Tribulation. The Bible also prophesies that in the last year of this period, German led Europe will be attacked and hammered by a 200 million man army of an Eastern alliance, as stated in Revelation 9, verse 16. Now the number of the army of the horsemen was 200 million. I heard the number of them. The Bible labels German led Europe as Babylon in Revelation 18, or the daughter of Babylon in Psalm 137, verse 8, Isaiah 47, verse 1, Jeremiah 50, verse 42, and Jeremiah 51, verse 33. Now, Germany has its own prophets who are German masqueraders who have learned prophecy as taught by Mr. Herbert W. Armstrong, through whom God founded the modern era of his church. But they also provide their own interpretations of prophecy based on information about the military situation they may have been given, or sometimes their own wishful thinking. Mr. Armstrong identified the German led European alliance as the daughter of Babylon in prophecy. However, masquerader prophets interpret prophecies related to daughter of Babylon as applying to Iraq and Iran, parts of which are located in the land ruled by the ancient Babylonian Empire. Therefore, according to their interpretation, destruction of daughter of Babylon means destruction of a ruler ruling in Iraq and Iran, and not German led Europe by the 200 million man army of the East. Now, in making their calculations, the Germans pay a great deal of attention to Bible prophecy. In a prophecy in Daniel 11, verses 40 to 45, the German ruler of Europe is also identified as the king of the north, where an Islamic ruler is identified as the king of the south. Understanding of God's church about the sequence of fulfillment of this prophecy was that German led Europe would first attack and destroy an Islamic power known as the King of the South, and then attack and defeat the United States, British, and Israeli alliance. However, God delivered a message to me through an angel, providing a different sequence of events. When anyone claims that God delivered a message to him via voice or a thought in his head or through an angel, everyone immediately jumps to the conclusion that he's gone bonkers or is demon influenced. In 1994, God delivered the first message to me through an angel that the Chinese of India are Jews. I was reluctant to share this message with anyone for fear of being labeled a crazy. But after about 4 months, I thought if God delivered the message to me, it must be important and I must share it with the church. So I shared it with my church pastor, Mr. Maceo Hampton. Then, 4 years later, God revealed to Queen Elizabeth of the United Kingdom that I was also a descendant of King David like her. Since King David was a Jew, God thus himself provided proof that he had delivered messages to me through angels, so that you may believe me when I claim that God delivered a certain message to me via an angel. One of the messages delivered to me by an angel was a sequence of end time events. It concerns the prophecy in Daniel 11 verses 40 to 43, which state, "And at the time of the end shall the king of the south, which is a Middle Eastern African power, push at him, and the king of the north, which is the European power headed by Germany, shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries, and shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter also into the glorious land, which means Israel and Jerusalem, and many countries shall be overthrown. But these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. Edom is Turkey, and Moab and Ammon are Jordan." Continuing in verse 42, "He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps." The message specifically was that the fulfillment of this prophecy is described in the book of Revelation, in Revelation 8 verses 6 to 12, as the seventh of the seven seals in the book. It states, "And the seven angels which had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died. And the third part of the ships were destroyed. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise." I have provided an interpretation of these things in my free ebook, World and Bible Prophecy, Chapter 7, titled "The Day of the Lord Begins." Now, this is the description of a massive war, as also mentioned in Daniel 11:40 and 43, in which the European alliance headed by Germany will destroy hundreds of millions in the Middle East and Africa, in the alliance known as the King of the South. Since in the sequence of events provided in the book of Revelation, this takes place after the Great Tribulation, or the American, British, and Jewish peoples after their defeat at the hands of the German-led Europe had begun earlier, as the fifth seal of the book of Revelation, it means that this war between the King of the North and the King of the South takes place after the defeat of the United States, Britain, and Israel alliance. But before this message given to me, understanding of this prophecy by God's church was that this war takes place before the European attack on the USA, Britain, and Israel alliance. Despite the message delivered to me, Germany had tried many times to fulfill this prophecy according to the previous understanding which German masquerader prophets still continue to preach. The reason was that those very prophets had labeled me crazy or demon influence because I claimed that this message was delivered to me by an angel. The Germans have been propping up Islamic dictators like Saddam Hussein and after that ISIS as possible candidates for being the king of the South. Their plan has been that when they are ready to take on the United States, Britain, and Israel alliance, they would attack the ruler under the guise of defending Israel, thus fulfilling Daniel 11 verses 40 to 43 prophecy. Then they would attack the United States, Britain, and Israel alliance and fulfill prophecies about their defeat at the hands of an alliance headed by Germany. They coaxed Saddam Hussein to conquer the Islamic world by first conquering Iran. That scheme fell through. Then they asked him to begin with Kuwait. That attempt fell through after the United States defeated Iraq in the First Gulf War. Then Saddam Hussein was defeated in the Second Gulf War and was hanged. That attempt to prop him up as the king of the South failed. As also mentioned earlier, another reason for propping up Saddam Hussein was that he would reign in the land of the ancient Babylonian Empire. Therefore, if they destroy Iraq as the king of the South, they will also have fulfilled the prophecy concerning the destruction of Babylon the Great. So they would be right in thinking that the destruction of Babylon the Great does not apply to the European alliance. Now, Germans do try every possible way to fulfill prophecy on their terms. In a way, they are correct because the Bible says that they will fulfill prophecies concerning defeat of the United States, Britain, and Israel. That's why they continue to interpret these prophecies in their own way and try to fulfill them. But I believe that their interpretation that destruction of Babylon the Great refers to the people occupying the ancient land of Babylon is an interpretation of convenience, their wishful thinking. Now, ISIS was another attempt by Germany to set up a king of the South, which Germany would then attack and destroy before attacking the United States, Britain, and Israel. However, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, leader of ISIS, was also killed and much of ISIS destroyed and the survivors booted out of Iraq and Syria. This attempt to fulfill prophecy in their own way, contrary to the message delivered to me by an angel, also failed. Thus, I was in error when in many of my last videos I had claimed that Germans propped up Saddam Hussein to get revenge on the Iraqis for occupying the ancient land of Assyria. They propped him up as a possible candidate for being the king of the South, whom they, as the king of the North, would destroy before attacking the United States, Britain, and Israel. Since Iran occupies certain parts of ancient Babylon and has much influence in Iraq, masquerader prophets have now been trying to label Iran as the most likely candidate for being the king of the South. That's why Germany, through China, encourages Iran to pick a fight with the United States by attacking Israel. Iran already keeps threatening Israel regularly with annihilation. According to the masquerader prophets, Germany will use the protection of Israel as a pretext to make an alliance with Israel, attack Iran, and destroy it. That's how they hope to fulfill the prophecy concerning destruction of the king of the South and Babylon the Great at the same time, before attacking the United States, Britain, and Israel to fulfill prophecy concerning their defeat. I stand by the sequence of these events as delivered to me by an angel. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please continue to watch my videos and read my articles on important world events, World War III watch, politics, international business, advice on health and medical problems, and much more for in-depth and insightful analysis. Please also subscribe to my YouTube and Facebook channels, Unmasked Truth with Harmanjeet Saini, to view and get information on the latest videos. Some people do not have the time to go through the full length of videos. They find it more convenient to read the text of the video. Unfortunately, YouTube does not provide the capability to make the text of my videos available on YouTube. But fortunately, Facebook does provide that capability. So I make the text of my videos available on my Facebook channel, which you can easily copy.